When 7-year-old Sam Marin got off the school bus, something caught his attention. Or someone did. Returning from a bike ride, Joe Marin joined the family breakfast. His wife Anna reminded him that this afternoon, she would go straight from work to the airport for a conference. Joe joked that it would be a boys-only weekend. After breakfast, he was going to take Sam to school and pick up Mitch, his best friend and business partner, along the way. Mitch proposed something that could bring them a huge profit. After dropping his son off at school, Joe discussed Mitch's proposal with their boss, Gorman. It concerned private clinic operations, but everything had to be done before the corresponding law was passed in the Senate. Now they needed an investor, and Joe stated that according to Mitch, Donald Scheer was the perfect candidate. Joe's secretary, Ulla, reminded him of all his scheduled meetings for the day. She also managed to find out something about Donald Scheer. His wife was on the board of the National Art Gallery and the State Theater. Since Joe had to pick up his son from school, Mitch would have to give the presentation instead. Joe became anxious when he didn't find his son at school. Moreover, the principal Barbara Collins didn't know where the boy was either. Joe explained that he had received a message stating that the school bus was delayed, which was why he arrived later than usual. Since no one had seen the boy, Joe called his secretary and asked who exactly had given her the message from Sam's school. Ulla replied that they hadn't introduced themselves, but it was a male voice. Anna, who was on her way to the airport, was already aware of Sam's disappearance and couldn't understand what was happening. Since more than 2 hours had passed since Sam had left school, the principal called the police. Joe told his wife to come back immediately. After telling the police everything he knew, Joe set off to search for his son. He walked through all the nearby streets, calling his name. The police were also searching for the boy. When Anna arrived, Joe hugged her and apologized for not keeping an eye on Sam. Detective Stacy and Detective Threlfall told the couple that Sam had left school with a man who had a dog. The boy hadn't looked scared, quite the opposite. The couple knew one thing: Sam would never leave with a stranger, which meant he knew this person. But it didn't take long to guess. The police took the couple to an unfamiliar part of the city. This was where Sam had been found, safe and sound. The detectives asked the whole family to go to the police station. Kathleen, Anna's mother, also arrived immediately. Detective Stacy spoke with the couple, informing them that Sam had been picked up today by Simon Haywood, who claimed to be a family friend. Anna explained that Simon was her ex-boyfriend, but she hadn't seen him in over 10 years. Later by the coffee machine, Joe ran into a man who kindly gave him some change, as Joe only had large bills with him. Simon's parents arrived and immediately recognized Anna. Simon himself was arrested. Anna identified him. The police still didn't know why Simon had taken Sam. But they knew he hadn't acted alone. A woman was with him. The couple insisted that neither of them knew this woman. Sam was completely fine and everything had ended well, so Detective Stacy let him go home with his parents. Joe was trying to recover from the stress of it all. Among other things, he had work matters that he would never share with his family. Tonight Anna had no intention of going to their bedroom. She stayed with their son. That night, unable to sleep, Joe drove to the place where Sam had been found. He hadn't been honest when he told the police he had never been there before. By morning, the news of the kidnapping of a well-known stockbroker's son was on the front pages of all the newspapers. Joe directly asked his wife if she had seen Simon Haywood recently. Anna did not understand why Joe did not believe her. All they knew was that Simon and his accomplice had put on cartoons for Sam and given him chocolate milk. Later, during a walk with his son, Joe tried to get more details from him. Now the press was following them everywhere. In the evening, Joe asked his wife about the conference she had missed that weekend. Anna said it was nothing serious. The news reported that Sam's kidnapper was his mother's ex-boyfriend. Joe found it unbearable to listen to. He was overcome with suspicion that his wife might be hiding something. Journalists stood outside their house even at night. Joe received several voice messages from Detective Stacy, who wanted to ask him more questions. Joe deleted all the messages. The next morning, when Joe arrived at the office, Ulla told him that she had been called to the police station to give a statement regarding Sam's abduction. Joe tried to call a certain Angela, but he reached her voicemail. Mitch reminded Joe that they needed to contact Donald Scheer today. The fact that Joe's name had appeared in all the newspapers might work in their favor. Donald Scheer read the papers, and now Joe was a recognizable figure. Gorman expressed sympathy to Joe, asking if Sam and Anna were okay. Joe assured him that everything was fine, knowing that Gorman did not actually care. The other employees at the firm also expressed their willingness to help, but it was all fake. Joe knew he had to get Scheer's investment at any cost. But instead, he went back to the house where Sam had been held and tried calling Angela again. She did not answer, but Daphne Bright, Mr. Scheer's secretary, did. She passed along an invitation from Donald Scheer to attend a charity event at his home. In the evening, Kathleen, who had stayed at their house, told Joe that the police had come by earlier. Detective Stacy wanted to talk to him. In the bedroom, Anna asked Joe why he would not move his brother Roger in with them. Joe explained that his brother required round-the-clock care. And who would handle that? Anna? The couple attended the reception at the Shears house. Izzy Shear personally greeted them, asking if their son was all right. Apparently everyone was talking about it. While Anna pretended to be interested in the art pieces, Joe planned to find Donald Shear, who was not taking part in the formal reception. Joe explained that he was there with a business proposition. Donald Shear gave him 10 minutes. Soon Joe and Mitch were celebrating a successful deal. Mitch, in high spirits, was about to send a message to Gorman immediately when Joe asked him to hold off. It turned out that Shear had set a condition. He wanted to meet a certain political defector, and Mitch could arrange it. Gorman agreed to sign all the necessary papers, but before that, he wanted to see Donald Shear's name on the shares of some clinic. They wanted the same thing as that politician. But the key point was that if the meeting did not take place, neither would the deal. Detective Stacy continued her attempts to contact Joe, and he finally agreed to visit the police station. The detective asked Joe once again if he knew that 20-year-old woman, Angela Erbican, also known as Angelica. She provided services to men at Cavendish House and claimed that Joe was one of her clients. There was no point in denying it, so Joe admitted that a client had paid for him and his colleague to visit once as a gift for a job they had done. After that, Joe had returned to Cavendish House several more times. The detective kept pressing, and Joe refused to continue the conversation. Later, he told Mitch everything, who was worried that this could leak to the press. Angela was not charged, but Joe feared that Anna would find out about his affair. Mitch told Joe that his marriage was the least of their problems right now. Before going to bed, Joe told his wife that they could move to Tasmania, as they had always dreamed, and have another child. The next day over the phone, Mitch informed Joe that the politician had agreed to meet with Shear next week at a hotel of his choosing. Joe visited his brother Roger at the home for disabled people. This time he came without Sam, although they usually visited together. Knowing that Angela had been released from custody, Joe showed up at her place in a rage and demanded to know why she and Simon Haywood had kidnapped Sam. Angela said that she was just Simon's neighbor, that they lived in the same house and that he was a good person. Barely containing his rage, Joe walked away. Soon Sam's birthday party took place, but none of the invited guests showed up. Kathleen distracted her grandson in every possible way. In the evening after the celebration, Anna told her husband that she had spoken with Detective Stacy today and knew that he was a regular client of Angela's. Perhaps Joe had told Angela about their son, and she had conspired with Simon to blackmail them. Joe said that he hadn't wanted things to go this far. Seeing a journalist trespassing into their yard through the window, Joe ran after him and beat him up. Earlier, psychiatrist Alex Klima, the same man Joe would later encounter at the coffee machine at the police station, was awakened by a call from Simon, who asked him to come over. Alex in turn called Gina, saying that his patient was in trouble and needed help. Gina Sirkin, Simon's lawyer, picked up Alex. Neither of them expected things to spiral out of control. Alex recalled how Simon first came to his office. The sessions had been paid for by Simon's father. The doctor asked the patient to explain why he was there. Simon's parents, May and William Haywood, had already arrived at the police station. Clearly nervous, Joe asked Alex for some change for the coffee machine. Amidst the commotion, no one fully understood what was happening. Simon was allowed to speak with his psychiatrist and lawyer. It seemed that Simon did not realize he had committed a crime. Right now Simon's only option was to prove to the court that Anna had willingly allowed him to take Sam. Both Alex and Gina understood this. Alex remembered how Simon had attended therapy sessions, gradually opening up. Simon often talked about Anna, with whom he had studied at university. In the present returning home, Alex did not expect to see his son Adam, standing at his apartment door, asking to stay the night. Alex immediately called his wife Deborah to reassure her, as their son had left without warning. The young man didn't understand why his parents wanted a divorce. In the morning Alex took Adam back to Deborah, noting that she looked well. Deborah in turn asked when he would sign the divorce papers. Later, Alex received a call from Gina, who informed him that they could not file for Simon's bail due to the Carl Monsan case. When Simon had been teaching at a school, a 7-year-old boy named Carl Monsan had gone missing. Simon had been the last person to see him. Carl was never found. Meeting Simon in the holding cell, Alex asked his former patient why he had never mentioned Carl. Either way, now was the time to do so. Simon explained that after university and his breakup with Anna, he had become a school teacher. Carl was a smart boy. On the day of his disappearance, Carl's mother had failed to pick him up on time. The boy had asked his teacher for permission to use the restroom, and no one had seen him since. Simon might not have been involved in Carl's disappearance, but the fact remains, he took Anna's son. If Alex doesn't find out why, he won't be able to help his former patient. Simon claimed he didn't need help, but he did need someone to walk his dog. In search of answers, Alex went to the house Simon shared with Angela. She gave Alex the keys to Simon's room, asking if he had inquired about her. Alex couldn't recall anything like that. Alex searched Simon's room, found an old letter from Anna and fed his dog. Anna had wrote Simon a letter as soon as she learned about the disappearance of a student at the school where Simon had taught. At that point they hadn't seen each other for quite some time, but Anna was willing to support him if needed. The place where Alex was renting didn't allow animals, so he asked his children to look after the pet. Simon's name had already appeared in the newspapers in a negative light. Headlines screamed that the dangerous criminal who had been free all these years had done it again. When Gina asked about his family, Alex lied, saying he was having dinner with them today. After buying a bouquet, Alex hesitated, then threw it away and visited Deborah uninvited under the pretext of forgetting his warm jacket. In reality, Alex used any excuse to see his family. When he was picking up his remaining belongings, he overheard Adam arguing with his mother, yelling that this was his father's house too. Clearly the young man still couldn't come to terms with his parents' separation. As Alex was leaving, Deborah reminded him about the divorce papers. He said he had already signed everything. Returning to his shabby rented apartment, Alex got drunk and called Gina, confessing that he hadn't been invited to dinner and that he and his wife had finally split for good. Alex also thought a lot about how many wrongful convictions had been issued throughout the entire history of the judicial system. Alex knew Simon was a good person and had no idea why all of this was happening. The next day, Alex went to Sam's school and realized something that made him question everything. How could Simon have recognized Sam if he had never met him before? Simon explained that some time ago, he had gone to Anna's house to leave a few of her favorite books on the doorstep. The front door was open, and for some reason Simon stepped inside. It seemed that Anna was not home, and her mother was vacuuming, so she didn't hear anything. Sam, playing in the yard, dropped his ball into the pool and nearly drowned, but Simon saved him. No one saw or heard it. Simon lied to the boy, saying he was a gardener who had come to check on the yard. They made a deal. Simon wouldn't tell anyone, and Sam wouldn't either. Alex decided to discuss Simon's story with Gina. In any case, as long as Anna continued to deny seeing Simon recently, their defense wouldn't hold up at all. In the afternoon, Alex walked along the beach with his son, who suggested spending the weekend together. Alex loved the idea. In the evening he met with May and William Haywood. William had always been skeptical of psychotherapy, so he didn't understand why Alex thought Simon had made good progress, given what had happened. At home, Alex replayed recordings of his conversations with Simon, who had said he wanted to do something that would bring order to his life. Now Alex felt guilty as a doctor for crossing the line and forming a friendly relationship with his patient. Simon constantly talked about Anna, calling her the sun of his life. But she had rejected him. Drunk, Alex waited for Anna outside her house, introducing himself as Simon's friend and psychiatrist. He asked her to tell the police the truth because obviously there was still something between her and Simon. But she refused to talk. Alex woke up hungover in his shabby apartment. Later, meeting with Gina, he shared his thoughts that Anna and Simon had been secretly seeing each other. Perhaps that day they were planning to run away together, but something went wrong. Gina was contacted by Anna's lawyer, stating that Alex had shown up at her house yesterday. Gina promised that it wouldn't happen again. Alex could be accused of obstructing justice. Alex knew for sure that Simon was protecting Anna out of love, but if that love wasn't mutual, why should he sacrifice his own life? But Simon wasn't afraid of the prospect of ending up in prison. Alex was still looking for any excuse to see his family, though deep down he understood that it was over. Alex suspected that Deborah had someone else. She claimed that wasn't the case and that their divorce had nothing to do with another man. Deborah had tried her best to keep the family together, but maybe her love for Alex had never been real. Hearing this, he broke down in tears. So their 20 years of marriage had been a lie. Angela was trying to get a meeting with Simon, insisting that she was his girlfriend. But the police wouldn't let her. Angela started screaming that it was all her fault, begging Alex to help. On that fateful day when Angela returned home, Simon was playing cards with Sam. Angela didn't know who the boy was or what he was doing here. Simon explained that he was doing Anna a favor. Angela told Simon to take Sam home immediately, but he refused. Angela didn't know what to do, but obviously doing nothing wasn't an option. Soon there was a knock on the door. It was the police and they immediately arrested Simon and Angela. Simon was read his rights and accused of kidnapping. Detective Stacy already knew that it was Angela who had called the police. During questioning, Angela mentioned that she and Simon were friends and neighbors. She called the police because she found it strange that a child was in the house, considering Simon didn't have kids of his own. Angela recalled all the warm moments she had spent with Simon. And in one of those moments, She had found photos of Simon and Anna together, pictures he had kept all these years. Simon knew that Angela had regular clients, including Joe, who often spoke about his cold wife. After Angela was released from the police station, her sister Dilara picked her up, and they were immediately surrounded by the press, bombarding her with questions about whether she was involved in the kidnapping. Angela knew that Simon wasn't a bad person and had never intended to harm Sam. Recently they had become very close. Angela had dreamed of leaving escort work behind and building a life with Simon, but the past was holding him back. Angela often changed her look for her clients. One day at Cavendish House, she met Joe and Mitch. Angela and Dilara's mother was worried that her daughter had been involved with a man accused of a terrible crime. When Alex came to search Simon's room, Angela gave him the keys without hesitation. Angela was afraid that her family would find out about her job. Everyone thought she worked at a casino. Angela was interrogated again. When the detectives explained that Simon was suspected of having unhealthy tendencies, Angela claimed that he was her boyfriend. She had only wanted to protect him. Angela had always been hurt by the fact that Simon never saw her as a woman. Nevertheless, during the police interrogation, she stated that she had been in a relationship with Simon for a year and that he hadn't been involved with any other women, including Anna Marin. Dilara thought it was a bad idea because the police would find out that she was lying. Besides, their family was quite religious. Angela had tried many times to get a meeting with Simon. She only managed to find out that he had been transferred to a hospital. Angela was on the verge of hysteria, but Alex showed up just in time to calm her down. Angela said that she had only wanted Simon to love her too, but he was obsessed with Anna, who was used to manipulating people. Angela told Alex that after their argument, Simon's obsession with Anna had intensified. He might have even started following her. Also, Angela told Alex that she had lied to the police about being Simon's lover to protect him. Alex explained that she had only made things worse for Simon because the defense strategy was based on the idea that Simon and Anna had been having a secret affair. Angela went to the police station to change her statement, admitting that her claims about a relationship with Simon had been a lie motivated by jealousy. Detective Stacy asked Angela to think carefully before officially changing her statement, warning that she could be charged with perjury. Moira fired Angela because she had attracted police attention, something highly undesirable in their business. The only option was to return to her family. Angela's mother, who had never approved of her job at the casino, would be happy about that. Angela could help Dilara take care of her little son. Angela received a call from a journalist, and she felt the ground slipping from under her feet. The police had told the press who she really was. But Dilara had already suspected as much and was ready to support her sister. Finally, Angela was allowed to see Simon, who had been transferred from the hospital back to prison. Judging by his condition, his cellmates had beaten him. Angela blamed herself for calling the police. But Simon wasn't angry with her, understanding that she had done what she had to do. Angela's family was convinced that the corrupt police had framed her. Angela was barely holding on, knowing that things couldn't go on like this. She admitted that what was written in the newspapers was true. The sister's mother simply refused to believe it, even though it was clear that denying the obvious any further made no sense. The woman kicked her daughter out. Dilara was the only one in the family who hadn't turned away from Angela. She returned to her apartment, knowing that she wouldn't be able to pay next month's rent. Unexpectedly, Angela received a call from Moira, who offered to help her find work. One of the clients insisted on meeting Angela at home. Trying to suppress her emotions, she did her makeup. Soon Angela arrived, finding Mitch in a cast and on crutches. He didn't expect Angela to remember him, but they could help each other. Simon's cellmates had turned his life into hell. Despite the scandal that had erupted in the press, Mitch was determined to see the deal with Shear through to the end. Seeing Angela's photo in the newspaper, Mitch remembered that they had met before. Gorman was pleased with Joe and Mitch's work, but he didn't know all the details. Mitch casually asked Joe if he had gone back to Cavendish House. Joe said no. That evening, Mitch and Joe celebrated their future success with their wives. Mitch's wife, Greta, got drunk and commented on how unfortunate Joe's marriage was. Anna clearly didn't love him. After putting Greta to bed, Joe spent the whole night thinking about Angela. Soon Joe and Mitch booked a hotel suite where meetings of a certain exclusive club were held. Some eccentric guru was conducting a self-development training session there. The rules were simple. All participants had to surrender their phones and complete several team exercises. Ula informed Joe that Don Shear had tried to contact him. Joe instructed Mitch to get the phone, but it wasn't that simple. The guru, as if mocking them, kept repeating that everyone must respect the rules. But they had to get it at any cost and came up with a clever plan. Joe approached a woman from the team of psychologists and told her that he had absolutely no one to talk to about his family problems. He also hinted that there was a bottle of good brandy in his room. The plan worked. The woman got drunk and returned Joe's phone to him. However, contrary to the agreement, Joe didn't send her away but kept drinking with her. This made Mitch, who was waiting outside, nervous. Unexpectedly, Ula approached him and shyly asked if he knew whether Joe liked her. Mitch, taken aback, replied that he had no idea. By morning, Joe was already fresh and alert, his phone in hand. After the incident with Sam's abduction, more opportunities started opening up for Joe because people sympathized with him. Joe immediately called Shear, but his secretary answered, saying that Don Shear was currently playing golf and couldn't come to the phone. The madness at the hotel continued. During one of the group exercises, Joe's phone rang, distracting everyone, which resulted in Mitch falling and sustaining fractures and injuries. The doctor concluded that rehabilitation would be difficult. Greta was planning to visit her relatives in Germany, unwilling to see her husband in such a state. Joe visited Mitch in his ward, informing him that despite Shear's doubts, they were still afloat for now. Mitch expressed concerns that he might be a hindrance to Joe because he asked too many questions about Sam and other matters. Joe assured him that this was not the case at all. Angela went to Mitch, remembering that she had seen him before at Cavendish House. When Mitch mentioned Joe Marin, Angela immediately tensed up and insisted on ending their meeting. Mitch was left completely alone, with no one even to hand him his pills. One day he visited the Marins and asked Anna how she was coping. The couple was reluctant to talk about the upcoming trial against Simon. Despite everything, Angela agreed to meet Mitch a second time because she desperately needed money. But Mitch didn't need her services, he just wanted to talk. He had thought long and hard about the situation and realized that Joe was the only person who benefited from his son's abduction. Perhaps he had orchestrated it to take advantage of the aftermath. Now Simon was covering for Anna out of love for her, and Mitch really wanted to help him because everyone around was lying. It all sounded like madness, but Angela didn't consider Mitch crazy at all and arranged for him to meet Simon in the temporary detention facility. Simon didn't say anything substantial, only mentioning that his Turkish cellmate was demanding $15,000 from him for protection. Angela understood that Mitch wouldn't just give her $15,000, but he offered to teach her how to play cards. She could win this money. Angela in turn kindly offered Mitch a ride. He didn't expect Greta to return, claiming that it was too cold in Germany. This was a crucial moment, so Joe demanded that Mitch connect Shear with the politician as soon as possible. Mitch tried to stall, saying that the politician required anonymity. Since Greta had returned, Mitch continued his meetings with Angela at the hotel. They were there for Mitch to teach Angela the tricks of card playing. It wasn't about luck, it was pure mathematics. At first Angela couldn't remember anything, but then she started to get the hang of it. Mitch had already figured out that Angela was in love with Simon. She saw something in him that no one else did. Mitch ignored Joe's calls. Don Shear was only willing to wait 5 more minutes. At home, Greta started an argument with Mitch over the fact that he had spent a significant portion of their savings, while there had been no income for a long time. When Greta forced Mitch to admit that he had been seeing a woman of easy virtue, she mocked him. Mitch tried to retaliate, but he fell and suffered in pain. Due to the failed deal with Shear, Joe was fired. Mitch, however, was kept on staff because of his back injury. Their plan to get rich and rise together had failed. Angela's card game lessons continued in the evenings in the same hotel room. Upon learning that the game was scheduled for the next day, Angela panicked, but Mitch was confident that she was ready. The decisive day arrived. Angela, who looked stunning, was visibly nervous. Joe reminded her of all the pre-arranged signals, when to raise or not to raise the stakes. They were doing all this for Simon. At the casino, they pretended to be a wealthy couple. They managed to win part of the sum, but then Angela started deviating from their agreement, feeling that luck was on her side. Mitch tried to dissuade her, wondering why no one ever listened to him, neither Joe nor Angela. However, Angela's intuition did not fail her, she hit the jackpot. Later, they arrived at the designated location to hand over the money. It worked out. As they drove away, they laughed with joy. Now Simon would be safe. At that moment Mitch felt ready to run away with Angela anywhere. When he confessed his love to the girl, they got into an accident. Angela escaped with only scratches and a slight fright, whereas Mitch suffered much more. After getting out of the car, Angela called an ambulance. Mitch woke up in a ward once again saw his wife beside him, who mentioned the bag full of money at the accident site. When Mitch was discharged from the hospital, the Marins had dinner at his home. Joe suggested that his friend quit the firm and start anew together. After the Marins left, Mitch couldn't hold it in and broke down in tears. His confused wife hugged him, repeating that everything would be all right. Simon recalled how he had been fired from school after the incident involving a student's disappearance. He suffered greatly, feeling lost. Shortly afterward, he received a letter from Anna, expressing her willingness to be there for him if he needed a friend. Gina was preparing for the upcoming trial. The first hearing was approaching. May was deeply worried about her son's fate, believing that it would be better for him to plead guilty and thereby receive a more lenient sentence. However, Simon continued to deny his guilt, even if Anna didn't appreciate it. Alex called Gina, reminding her about tonight's party. They had become quite close lately. Many well-known lawyers attended the party. The current trial was Gina's chance to make a name for herself. She and Alex had a pleasant conversation. Gina returned home late. Her teenage daughter Rebecca had fallen asleep in front of the TV. Lately, they hadn't been as open with each other as before because Gina was constantly busy with work. Gina and Alex saw each other often, discussing the case. Gina immediately understood that Simon meant more to Alex than just a patient. Also, Gina felt that something more than just professional relations was happening between her and Alex. And he felt the same. Passion ignited between them. Gina had a lot on her plate, so today their nanny Svetlana would look after her daughters. Rebecca suspected that her mother had a boyfriend. Reviewing the case materials once again, Gina found a discrepancy. Simon claimed that he had seen Anna after the incident with Carl, whereas she denied it. Gina called Alex, sharing her doubts. They agreed to meet at Simon's apartment today. Alex had a key, so they entered without trouble. Simon had kept Anna's letter, but it didn't prove that they had seen each other recently. Gina spoke with Simon's parents, explaining that her defense strategy would be based on the argument that Anna herself had consented to Simon taking Sam from school. William was fed up with this circus. He wanted his son to plead guilty and stop disgracing the family, or else he would stop paying for the lawyer. Gina and Alex met with Simon again in the detention center, reminding him of what he risked if he continued to protect Anna. Gina also asked her client to recount his meeting with Anna after she had sent the letter. Simon said that they had met on the pier, with no witnesses. Staying late at the office, Gina was trying to find any clues proving that Simon and Anna had met. Her assistant Robert mentioned that Joe Marin had lost his job and that their house was up for sale. Gina's daughters missed her terribly, and their nanny Svetlana didn't care about them at all. Svetlana had found another job with live-in accommodation and intended to quit in 2 days. Gina and Alex continued to secretly meet at her house while the girls were asleep. Although it was obvious that Rebecca already knew everything. William followed through on his threat and stopped funding his son's lawyer. May asked Gina to send the bills directly to her now. She still had some savings left. Rebecca desperately needed her mother's attention, while Gina, completely consumed by work, expected her eldest daughter to take care of the younger sister, 10-year-old Aviva. But today things didn't go as planned. Rebecca got sick and couldn't take her little sister to the competition. The girl suggested that her mother call Alex and ask him to take Aviva. Gina didn't want to involve Alex in her family problems, but she was running late, so she had no choice. Before the first hearing, Gina gave Simon instructions, telling him to think carefully before saying anything. The first hearing began. Simon pleaded not guilty. The defense called its first witness, Detective Stacy. It was evident that the police had no proof that Simon had taken Sam from school against his will. After the hearing, Gina thanked Alex for helping out that morning. It became known that the prosecution had added another witness to the list, Simon's cellmate, Frederick Svire. Simon assured his lawyer that he hadn't said anything to any of his cellmates. Gina asked the judge for half a day to gather all possible information about Frederick. However, the judge only granted her time until the end of the lunch break. In a hurry, Gina met with Judge Gabriel at a restaurant, explaining that the prosecution had a witness claiming that Simon Haywood had confessed to kidnapping Sam. It turned out that Gabriel was already familiar with Frederick's name. When Frederick testified against Simon in court, Gina argued that he had simply made a deal with the prosecution to reduce his sentence. It was clear that he was willing to frame Simon, or anyone else, for his own benefit. Next, Joe testified, stating that on the day his son disappeared, he had never felt so helpless before. The defense pressed Joe, asking about the state of his marriage at the time of Sam's disappearance. Joe without hesitation stated that his marriage had been perfectly fine. Alex and Gina had dinner at a restaurant, discussing the case. But their date was interrupted by the arrival of Deborah, Adam, and Rachel. Alex had always dined at that restaurant with his family before. The situation was awkward. Gina suspected that Alex had set this up on purpose to hurt Deborah. He tried to explain, but Gina preferred to end the dinner. At home, Gina apologized to her eldest daughter for not spending enough time with her and Aviva. Rebecca, on the contrary, was happy that her mother had a boyfriend. But Gina was no longer sure that she and Alex had a future together. The next morning the next hearing took place, with Angela testifying. She was a key witness, and the fact that she frequently changed her testimony raised questions. Angela stated that she had initially called herself Simon's girlfriend out of jealousy toward Anna, but later his psychiatrist explained that her lies could only cause harm. This statement was unexpected for the court. Gina was deeply outraged. It all seemed as though the defendant's psychiatrist was trying to manipulate a key witness. Alex felt terrible but wanted to find a way to fix the situation. In tears, Gina said that it was better for them not to start a relationship because obviously he was not ready to let go of the past. Robert provided Gina with a printout of Anna's calls. On the day of Sam's disappearance, she called a hidden number. What they had so far, there was no real evidence that Anna and Simon had any contact over the past 6 months. The defense was falling apart, but suddenly Gina had a hunch. She asked the prison guard to let her check the visitor log and confirmed that Anna had visited Simon in the detention center 2 days ago. That same evening, Gina called Alex and told him about it. She also asked whether William and May Haywood owned any property outside the city. Alex in turn apologized to Gina for the incident at the restaurant. He had only wanted Deborah to see how happy he was with another woman. The next hearing took place. A transport company employee testified. According to all records and registrations, on the day of Sam's disappearance, Anna's car did not go to the airport but to a peninsula in Mornington, where Simon's parents owned property. During the break in the restroom, Gina crossed paths with Anna. They stared at each other for a long time without saying a word. The hearing resumed, and Anna was called as a witness. She swore on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Once Anna and Simon had been madly in love with each other, and after all these years that fire had not yet gone out. Before the upcoming trial, Anna was very nervous. Kathleen reassured her, saying that soon they would forget all of this like a bad dream. But Kathleen did not know that her daughter might have something to hide. Joe did not understand why his wife was so nervous about the trial if she had done nothing wrong. Anna remembered how Joe had called her in a panic and said that their son was missing. And that day Anna had not been heading to the airport at all. In the present before the court, Anna told her husband that she would put Simon in prison. What she was about to say would change his life forever. Joe believed that Simon deserved it. Every person must be held accountable for their actions. Joe did not know that 2 days earlier, Anna had visited Simon in the detention center. She came to ask why he had taken Sam and how he even knew what the boy looked like. Simon remembered their meeting on the pier. He felt that Anna was unhappy. In the present, Simon told Anna that he had not kidnapped Sam. Kidnapping implied some kind of benefit, but there had been nothing of the sort. However, the investigation saw it differently. Since Simon did not have the parents' permission to take Sam, it was considered abduction. Before the hearing, Anna locked herself in a restroom stall and wrote a message to an unknown recipient, saying that she had to tell the truth. However, the person she was messaging did not think so. The unknown recipient sent her another message. If she did not expose him, he would help them. Some time ago, Anna and Angela had met. By that point, the two women already knew everything about each other indirectly. Anna asked how Simon was doing. Angela replied that Simon was in big trouble. Anna did not care that her husband had been a regular client of Angela's, but she wanted to be sure that when Sam had spent a few hours at Simon's house, he had been safe. Anna is now waiting for her turn to testify in court, recalling her last meeting with Simon. He told her about the time Sam nearly drowned in a swimming pool. Also, Simon wants Anna to know that he never intended to harm Sam. He only wanted to spend a few hours with him. Simon felt he had to do something to make Anna and Joe think. But about what? Now Anna is testifying in court. The defense attorney pointed out that on that day, Anna did not go to the airport but instead traveled to the Mornington Peninsula, where Simon's parents had owned a house for over 20 years. Joe does not understand what is happening, while Anna, confused, stated that she did not have an affair with Simon and had no intention of going to his parents' house. But she had not planned to go to the airport either. So where was she heading? Anna explained that she had booked a hotel room in Mornington for 2 days just to be alone and rest. But in reality she had planned to meet someone, Don Shear. The court recessed for a break. Joe was furious with his wife for her lies, demanding an explanation. The hearing resumed. Anna had to answer whether she had given Simon permission to take Sam from school. Anna remembered asking Simon once again why he had done it. Simon replied that he wanted to stop her from cheating. He had seen her having dinner with another man. In the present, Anna stated that she had lied in her initial statement. In reality, she had given Simon permission to take Sam. The prosecution requested a recess to reconsider its position. The judge declared the session closed, and Simon was released from custody. May hugged her son. Simon realized that Anna had returned the favor. Joe spent the entire evening sitting in his car. Anna asked him to come inside, but Joe no longer intends to stay here. He cannot forgive his wife for such a betrayal. Now Anna could be charged with perjury, which carries a prison sentence. In the morning, Anna woke up alone, without her husband. Not finding Sam in his room, she panicked, but the boy was just in the living room. As she was getting ready to take her son to school, Anna received a message from the unknown sender. He would be waiting for her at lunch when she was ready. Kathleen continues to fully support her daughter, although she openly disapproves of her actions. Anna only wanted to do the right thing. Joe lost his job, this house is being sold, there is nothing stable left in her life. Kathleen is convinced that her daughter brought this upon herself because Joe had always worked hard for their family. Kathleen understands that Joe is not perfect, but he earned her respect because he stood by Anna when they lost Peter. It is their shared pain. Later, after wishing her mother good night, Anna said she had somewhere to go. She visited Mitch, who had not seen Joe since the morning. Mitch still had a strained relationship with his wife, but he had received his insurance payout and had not lost his job, so things were not all that bad. That night Joe came home drunk, barely able to stand. He did not want to talk about anything. The next day Anna met with Don Shear at a restaurant. He thanked her for not turning him in. In return, he had promised to help Joe with his career, but it seemed he was in no hurry to keep his word, even though Anna had committed perjury in court at his request. Sending Don away, Anna went to the police station. Detective Stacy stated that the state would not be pressing charges against her for perjury. Upon hearing this, Anna felt an overwhelming sense of relief and thanked the detective for her help. Later, Anna met with Alex and asked how Simon was doing. Alex said that Simon was now surrounded by the care of his loved ones, his parents and Angela. Anna still doubted whether she had done the right thing, as her husband had left her. Simon's actions were meant to bring her and Joe closer together, but the exact opposite had happened, and that was entirely their fault. Anna asked how one could know when a marriage was over. Alex said that he had also gone through a divorce, even though he had spent a long time pretending that everything was fine. Sometimes one has to make a difficult decision to give each other a chance at happiness. Anna decided to meet with Simon to explain why she had changed her testimony. She told him that she and Joe had another son, Peter, who had passed away. The thought that they could have lost a second child had been unbearable. Anna had changed her testimony as a way of thanking Simon for saving Sam. But now Anna wanted Simon to stay away from her. Before she left, Simon said goodbye. Soon Joe came home to have a calm discussion about what to do next and what would happen after the house was sold. Anna admitted that for the past 6 months, she had been regularly having lunch with Don Shear, but there had been nothing between them. He had not wanted his name to appear in the newspapers, which was why she had lied in court. It was Don who had paid for the lawyer who convinced the state not to press perjury charges. After losing Peter, the couple had grown distant from each other, and their mutual understanding had disappeared. Anna had never thought it was possible to feel so lonely in a marriage. Through tears, Joe told his wife that he was right here in front of her. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.